Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has announced the second phase of the country's war against Hamas, vowing to destroy the enemy above ground and below ground. The Israel Defense Forces is expanding ground operations in Gaza while continuing to urge civilians to evacuate from the northern part of the Gaza Strip. Palestinian media reports that telephone and internet service is gradually returning after the bombardment knocked out most communications in Gaza. Many fear the cutoff of communication will lead to the Israeli military controlling the narrative of the fighting. Our correspondent Stephanie Freed is in Tel Aviv right now. Hello, Stephanie Freed. Can you bring us up to speed on the second phase of Israel's ground incursion into Gaza?
Essentially, ground incursion, what it implies is exactly in the name. It is exactly the title, which is that troops are going in by ground. That means that they've gone past the boundaries of Gaza. It's not just airstrikes or remote strikes from the sea or land inside of Israel. They're going in with tanks. They're going in with artillery. And what we've seen so far, as opposed to previous ground invasions into Gaza, is that it's not a massive amount of troops, not a massive group or thrust forward. It's limited, and this is what the Israeli government had said was going to happen. More precision strikes, but it's expanding with each day. The strikes are expanding, covering more ground, and the understanding here is with movement deeper into Gaza, it is to knock out more and more of that Hamas infrastructure and get rid of it for good, as Israel's Prime Minister has said. That's the aim. Right now, there's an urgent call by Israel for Gazans to move south. Not the first time this has happened, because Israel is saying they're going to expand their operations further into the Gaza Strip. They've dropped leaflets to warn people, tell them to move south. Of course, we've repeatedly heard about Hamas blocking people from moving south to incur a high civilian casualty toll for their aims and purposes. As well, we understand that as of Monday, there will be expanded humanitarian efforts to get more humanitarian aid into Gaza from Egypt in the south via the Rafah crossing. So as the campaign expands, there's also going to be in the south an expanded effort at getting humanitarian aid in. Israel's saying that the north, the area they're telling people to get out of, will be a battlefield. And that's why they're warning civilians, get out. So of course, you talked about Martin the underground. There's a massive network of underground tunnels. That is something Israel needs to contend with. Not that they will go underground, but there are all sorts of high-tech and technical ways of flushing people out of the tunnels. And then, of course, massive consideration for Israel is the now numbered, according to Israel, 230 captives, hostages, that are being held by Hamas inside of Gaza.
Netanyahu has warned Israelis to expect a long and hard military campaign, but it appears that there have been increasing voices from Israelis calling for a ceasefire. How has the Israeli government reacted so far?
I have to be honest, as Martin, I'm not hearing these increasing voices inside of Israel for a ceasefire. I'm seeing it outside, certainly. And there may be a minority of voices, perhaps, who feel that but the government has been very clear. There will not be a ceasefire. They are going to go ahead with their plans here until they wipe out Hamas. They basically are looking at October 7, the day of the massacres, on the part of Hamas terrorists who infiltrated Israel, and saying we can never, ever go back to the day before October 7, October 6th, the reality that it was, which means wipe out Hamas. In the interim, they've tried, Israel has said that they are trying to warn civilians, trying to stay away. We're seeing the civilian casualty toll, which bear in mind, is coming out of Hamas-controlled Gaza. The numbers and the facts and the figures, and they control the information that comes out of Gaza as well. So not that information isn't controlled on both sides, but that's something to bear in mind. So in terms of internal protest, most of the country is remaining subdued. The protest at the moment is for the hostages. The families of the hostages want their loved ones to be released, and that's what they're pushing hard up against the government for right now is, yes, ground campaign, okay, but we want to see people released, and the deeper Israel goes into Gaza, the greater the concern for those hostages that are being held there.